NHL Free Agent frenzy continues with the Red Wings making a few more signings. Plus, we have some signings from Pittsburgh, Florida, Colorado, Calgary, Washington, and a few others. We have a minor trade as well between the Sharks and Jets, and the Predators have made another hiring for their front office. All on coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, Free Agent frenzy continues here on day 2, July the 2nd. A couple of these signings actually came in late last night. Once I kind of put a stop to the recording for the day. Did a ton of videos talking about all the signings and a few of the rumors and other trades going on yesterday. So some of the late signings I figured we would just incorporate into a video today, unless they were like major earth-shattering news. But we'll get started first with the Nashville Predators announcing today Barry Trotz, the new GM, has hired Mark Borowiecki, former Predator, longtime Ottawa Senator, to work with the team in a new role since announcing his retirement. He is now going to work with the player development department, so that's good on him. Borowiecki is a terrific human being, worked hard his whole career to kind of carve out a decent term NHL career, spending a long time in the minors, kind of fighting for an NHL job. Does a lot for the community in Nashville, did a lot for the community during his time in Ottawa as well. And I'd be happy to see him still being involved here in the game in different capacities. So he's I believe, going to work on player development more on the pro side. So I think he'll work with more, probably looking at like your players in the American Hockey League and your younger players within the Predator organization at the NHL level. If there's anything like, first, second year guys, that type of stuff. So good on them. Good hiring. Good human being to join the organization. A couple of big signings in Detroit. These are probably the more significant ones here of the day we're going to talk about right now. Shane Gostisbehere goes to Detroit on a 1-year deal at $4.125 million. Gostisbehere had a really rejuvenated his career during his time in Arizona. Got to Carolina last year for the playoff run at the trade deadline. To be honest, he had a pretty good showing there as well. Good skater, good puck mover. I know he kind of lost his way towards the end of his tenure in Philly, and they essentially had to pay Arizona to take him off their hands, but it did not take him long to bounce back. I'm a little bit surprised Gostisbehere couldn't find a longer-term deal, or maybe this is more of a preference on his part. I think next year, looking into the future, there's going to be a much larger free agent crop next year. A lot of players are opting for shorter-term deals, especially your guys that are your second, third pair defensemen, your third, fourth liners, anybody who's not a huge name that's able to command the big bucks right now. It makes sense for them to kind of take short-term deals, continue to prove themselves, and when the cap goes up over the next year or two, depending if they have a 1 or 2 year deal, can really capitalize and get more money at that point. So Detroit made some signings that I wasn't really in love with. I thought the JT Compher signing was decent, a little bit too much term though, in my opinion, a little too much money, but this Gostisbehere signing on the short-term deal works well. They also signed Christian Fischer. Of course, Gostisbehere and Fischer would know each other from time in Arizona. Fischer's a hard-working bottom six guy. His qualifying offer, which he was not given by the Coyotes, was $1.13 million, which is ultimately what Detroit gives him on a 1-year contract. So Fischer goes to the Detroit Red Wings on a 1-year deal. So a couple of short-term contracts. I like those ones for Detroit. Those will certainly help the team for sure. The Penguins announced a couple of signings. They've added another goalie, Magnus Hellberg. He gets a 1-year deal, $785,000. And they brought back Radim Zohorna on a 1-year, 2-way deal, $775,000. Of course, new GM President Kyle Dubas would be familiar with Zohorna. He brought him to Toronto in a trade with the Flames as well. Played a handful of games with the Leafs at the NHL level. Spent some time with the Marlies, so he would have had a chance to see him up close personal quite a bit. So clearly thought he could be a benefit to go back to the Penguins where he started his career. In the case of Hellberg, I got to think that they're going to be making a goalie trade. I mean, they signed Jerry to a long-term deal, so there's no doubt he's going to be their number one and starting goaltender. But is the Casey DeSmith trade coming? I really think the answer to that's most likely yes. He does have another year of his contract, but after bringing in signing multiple other goalies now who are certainly capable of being that guy, I have to think DeSmith trade is likely coming. The Florida Panthers have signed Evan Rodrigues. This is one of the biggest term we're going to talk about in this video from this crop of free agent signings. 4-year deal in Florida at $3 million per season. Rodrigues is a guy who spent the full 4 years in college at Boston University, come out, played with the Sabres for a few years, and then ended up in Pittsburgh, which is really where he really flourished. In the last 2 years, he's basically been a 20-goal scorer. This past season, he didn't hit 20, but he didn't also play all the games. He missed, I think it was 13 games with an injury. So but he had 16, I think it was. So with the pace, if you prorate that, he's basically a 20-goal guy. So $3 million for a 20-goal scorer who can play in your middle six isn't bad. Getting a 4-year deal on that is, you could debate that maybe it's a little bit too much. Clearly, they really like this player. They moved out Anthony Duclair yesterday in a trade to the Sharks. They brought back Steven Lawrence, obviously another guy who could play in your bottom six. Lawrence was making $2 million less than Duclair, so that freed up enough space to be able to sign Rodrigues for $3 million. To me, I do wonder if the Panthers are not quite done rejigging, and we're likely going to see some more movement within their lineup too. But I like the Rodrigues signing. He's got an excellent shot, good skater. You don't want to play him too high in your lineup and rely on him too much, but the 4-year term might be a bit debatable. But at the end of the day, $3 million. If he can play 2 to 3 years and give you 20 goals a year, then it'll be worth it. And Florida seems to have this knack for finding value players and turning them into stronger players. Look Duclair went down, really found his game. Carter Verhaeghe, prime example as well, made some marchment. Obviously not with the team anymore, but still another case of that. So we'll see what happens, but not a bad signing. Just questionable in the term, but I think long term it'll be just fine. The Avalanche are bringing back Jack Johnson. I honestly thought after everything that they had done that him and Erik Johnson both likely wouldn't be back. Of course, Erik Johnson moved on and signed in Buffalo. Jack Johnson returns on a 1-year cheap contract, $775. Of course, he's been in and out of the Avalanche organization for the last 2-3 years, so certainly lots of familiarity there. Can take a role that's, like a 6-7 type defenseman who they're comfortable with in a third pair role when need be, and also somebody who understands that, maybe they don't play every single game. They come out of the lineup on occasion and can deal with that. A good pro, long-time veteran, so pretty good signing there for a cheap value contract on a veteran player. Former Calgary Flame Matthew Phillips has left the Flames organization as well. I know a lot of Flames fans were hoping that he would get re-signed. He was a Group 6 free agent, meaning he didn't get enough NHL action to qualify as an RFA, so he therefore became a UFA. And with Daryl Sutter gone and all the changes the Flames made, I know many were hopeful that he would stick around with Calgary and finally get a chance to play more at the NHL level, and he's opted to leave. And he's following his American Hockey League coach for the past couple of years, Mitch Love. Mitch Love, of course, took a job working with the Washington Capitals, and that's where Phillips is signed. He gets a 1-year, one-way contract, league minimum $775. So with what the Washington Capitals have done there, bringing in some supporting cast for your big guys, Phillips might be a guy who's going to be a bright spot for them. I mean, we'll see. This is his opportunity to have a chance to play and play meaningful role. He'll get NHL money regardless if he's in the minors or not. He will need waivers to go through to the American Hockey League if they decide to go down that road. But Phillips gets his one-way deal, and of course, like I said, I'm sure the connection there, Mitch Love, is no coincidence that he ended up in the same town as the coach who helped him have a ton of success at the American Hockey League. The Calgary Flames have signed Dryden Hunt as well to a 1-year contract, $775,000 at the NHL level. I believe that is a 2-way deal as well. And the Edmonton Oilers are bringing back Drake Caggiula. Of course, he's been in the organization before. This time, though, it's a 2-way deal. Very lucrative at the American Hockey League level. It's a league's minimum $775 at the NHL level, but $500,000 at the AHL level. So it's certainly one of the more lucrative 2-way deals you'll find. Most AHL players make far less than that, so Caggiula, of course, will be a big help. Might see some NHL time depending on how much depth or injuries they run into. They have an NHL level this year, and as I mentioned in the opener, we also have a minor trade between the Jets and the Sharks. There are 2 younger defensemen swapping places. The Winnipeg Jets are trading defenseman Leon Gawanke to the San Jose Sharks for defenseman Artemi Niazet. So both these younger defensemen will swap organizations and get a fresh start and see if they can't further their careers that way. So those are all your signings for right now. I'm sure there's likely going to be more news later today. All kinds of rumors floating around about some potential trades that are being discussed, so we'll see about that. We may have some trades to talk about. If not, I'm sure we'll at the very least have some more signings. There's still plenty of intriguing names out there in the free agent market, like Tyler Bertuzzi, Vladimir Tarasenko, Max Domi, Matt Dumbuzz, and then plenty others as well. So we'll stay tuned to see where all these guys end up. I'm sure we'll get a bunch more of these today. There's probably going to be the odd few that do drag on a little bit further in the free agency. Some might be talking to teams and have like a handshake deal in place and are waiting for trades to take place to free up money. So things like that sometimes happen as well. So let me know your thoughts on these signings in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to this channel, of course, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with the latest news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.